What is up, everybody? Skratch coming up with another Raid Shadow Legends video. Hope you guys are having an amazing Sunday and you're spending it with a family, with loved ones. Just kind of like make the most out of it. Now, it's been a while since we made a video like this. It's probably going to be a slightly longer video than usual, but I'm gonna put everything nice for you guys on timestamps based on faction. So if you guys wanna skip from a different faction to another just to check out your champions, feel free to do it. Now, in today's video, we're gonna talk about the top 40 best non-void epic champions in the entire game. I repeat, non-void, because I know there's always a sleepyhead dropping in the comments, well, Skratch, where is here? Where is my damn series? This top sucks because you don't have these champions in. How can you be so wrong? Because we're not talking about void champions, maybe. Just as an idea. So keep that in mind while you're watching the video. In some special cases, some of the epic champions that they won't be in the top 40, they might be great for some people out there. The whole idea is that they might be part of top 50, top 60, but I personally think that maybe they're just not part of the top 40, okay? We might go over the top 40 with one or two champions. There's so many good epic champions in the game, guys. So I just wanna point that out before we move over to talk about the champions. And before that, let's hear a word from today's sponsor. Today's video is brought to you by Bloodline, Heroes of Lightas. New legends will be born. Bloodline is a free-to-play fantasy ARPG game available on iOS and Android. They just had a massive update, so this might be the right time for you guys to try the game out. If you like what you see on the screen, you can download the game by using the link in the description down below or by scanning the QR code you see on the screen. And just to give you guys a head start that started playing, you will receive a free starter pack worth $20 if you download the game with my link that's in the description down below. Bloodline is a very unique ARPG game with stunning traditional and western visuals. You get to build your own kingdom and economy, but my favorite part is that you can create your own unique legendary champions, and honestly, you can create so many different strategies by combining their bloodlines. This is kind of like a very unique thing to the game. You can marry different classes and create new family trees with cool and unique abilities. The higher your companion's intimacy, the more powerful your offspring will become, okay? They are adding new characters every single month, so the possibilities are endless. Talking about the Halloween, because it's almost here, they are adding a new vampire clan to the game, and starting from October 27, you're gonna get to collect a free vampire champion just to celebrate in style, right? Halloween is here, we gotta get in the mood, so they're giving us a free vampire champion. Now, the game has some very solid visuals and character designs. The new vampire clan is definitely spot on. You can join guilds, loot raid bosses, and fight for glory in arena. Don't forget to download the game by using the link in the description down below to get a free starter pack. Thanks again to Bloodline, Heroes of Lightas, for sponsoring today's video. We're gonna start with the very first faction. We're gonna go from the bottom and we're gonna make our way all the way up. We're gonna start with the Shadowkins. I'm gonna explain you where the champions are good and why they are good mainly, okay? So I'm gonna try to be as brief as possible. Shadowkin, we're gonna start with no one else but Toragi. He's well known for his clan boss capabilities, right? So he is an HP based champion, pretty impressive base stats, almost 22,000 HP. On the A1 he has a chance to land decrease attack. On the A2 he has a chance to provoke the enemy, so that makes him great on waves, great for the Doom Tower, great for faction wars, even for dungeon waves if you need some sort of support early on when you're progressing through the game. The main thing that stands out on him a lot is the A3, places a shield buff and ally protection on all allies except this champion. Also heals the champion by 25% of their max HP and places a reflect damage buff on him for 3 turns. The heal increases by 2.5 for each poison, which brings us up to the next thing that we have with Toragi. The passive, when attacked, has a 50% chance of placing poisons, occurs once per hit. So that actually makes it really powerful against some specific bosses, great for clan boss. Definitely if you have a Toragi, don't sleep on him. The next champion that we have on the list, still from the Shadowkin faction, no one else but Hotatsu. Now, he is a pretty nice champion. The passive is a bit crazy sometimes on the clan boss if you're not setting your team up, but he's still pretty decent as a champion, and I really like his kit all around. We have Leech on the A1, and fully booked goes up to a 60% chance, which is pretty good because that means that you don't need to have lifesteal on your clan boss. We have decreased attack on the A2 on a 3-turn cooldown. Unfortunately, it's not a 100% chance to land it. The A3, we have increased defense and continuous heal on all allies for 1 turn. The increased defense is for 2 turns, and this is on a 3-turn cooldown, which again makes him pretty solid for clan boss. You can run him in faction wars if you need support for waves, dungeons, while you're progressing through the game. Definitely a pretty solid option, and removes 1 random debuff from this champion at the start of each turn. Will remove stun, sleep, freeze, etc. debuffs before other debuffs, which makes him great to be a stun target on the clan boss. The only problem is the clan boss debuffs before you get to the stun. So if you don't have an immunity on the team somehow, he's gonna activate the passive before because of the poisons, and that will mess him up. So that's kind of like what I meant with his passive being a bit crazy. Increases ally defense in all battles by 25%. Again, a very nice aura because it's for all battles. Hotatsu definitely another solid champion. Moving over to the next champion that we have on the list, guys. No one else but Burangiri. Now, he is well known for being able to solo the Pommel boss, the Dreadhorn, on the Doom Tower, normal mode and hard mode, all the way up to floor 50 on a regeneration set. The reason for it is his passive, so heals these champions by 50% of their max HP whenever an ally or an enemy dies. Now, out of there, I feel like a lot of people underestimate the potential of Burangiri. He does have pretty good base stats, right? Defense-wise, HP-wise, pretty solid champion. He's a defense base too. We have a chance to provoke on the A1. Not a very high chance, but fairly decent. If you would build this champion, you definitely want to get Fearsome Presence on him, because we do have the A2, which attacks all enemies and has a chance to stun. So getting Fearsome Presence as tier 6 mastery for the champion will actually increase the A1 and the A2. The A3 places strength and buff on all allies and a shield buff on all allies. Definitely very, very solid. Great for faction wars. You can definitely use him for a bit of support. If you need to use him even on the spider to CC a bit the spiderlings, it's not going to be the best option out there for it, but it's still going to do a bit of work. Great for other waves like Doom Tower, again dungeon for progression, and deal with the Pommel, especially on normal mode if you're struggling. Keep Burangiri in mind. Then we have Kunoichi. I feel like she is the last epic champion that really, really stands out of here. Non-void, I repeat. So if we click on Kunoichi, the A1, we have a chance to land a weaken, a fairly decent chance. The A2 attacks all enemies, and we have a 100% chance to land Leech. My only complaint about Kunoichi, this is on a 4-turn cooldown instead of a 3-turn cooldown. This would have made such a difference if it was gonna be on a 3-turn cooldown. She is a defense-based champion, pretty impressive base stats. The A3 places ally protection buff on all allies except this champion for 2 turns and fills the thermometer by 50. So this is on a 3-turn cooldown as a skill. It is a bit of a pain in tuning the champion with the fills this champion's thermometer by 50. Okay, so that's one thing to keep in mind. It is a bit of a pain, but all around she is a decent champion. She can be a great carry for faction wars, great tank all around for waves, wherever you need a bit of help, you know. So she's pretty good. Places block damage buff on this champion for 1 turn whenever their HP drops below 50. So Kunoichi, another champion to keep in mind, right? She is Force Affinity as well. If we're gonna move over to the next factions, we have the Dwarves right here. Now, of course, we have one champion that stands out more than any other champion in the game. Geomancers. He is such a freaking beast. He's the best champion to slay bosses, the #1 boss slayer in the game, and he's well known for this reflect damage passive. So basically, the A1 has a chance to land decreased accuracy AoE. Great for a lot of places. It's great that you can even run him in faction wars on a stun set because the A1 is AoE. That can actually help you quite a bit. The A2 removes all buffs from the target or steals them if the enemy is under a HP burn. Reduces the cooldown of the A3 if the target is killed by this skill. That doesn't really happen that much. He doesn't hit extremely hard. I've never really built a Geomancer pure raw damage, you know. I'm always giving him survivability, accuracy, kind of like to do the job that he's meant to. The passive is killing the enemies. Fully depletes the target's turn meter, fills this champion's turn meter by the amount the target loses, and has a 100% chance fully booked to land HP burn and weaken. Definitely fully book the champion. He does need quite a few books, but he's 100% guaranteed. He is one of the best epic champions in the entire game. And the passive reflects all that. Crazy damage, HP aura for all battles. Man, such a beast of a champion. Fairly decent base stats as well for a attack champion. Definitely don't sleep on Geomancers. I think I have like 4 of them built, you know. Relentless, I have so many different sets. I already have a proper guide on Geomancer where I'm explaining you how to maximize the damage, different builds, where to use them. Feel free to check that out. Moving over to the next champion that we have here on the list, guys. No one else but Rearguard Sergeant. Again, she is one of the more OG champions for this faction. We have defense down on the A1. She is a defense-based champion, Force Affinity, pretty good base stats. She can be a solid carry for Faction Wars, solid carry for Doom Tower Secret Rooms, solid carry for Waves. The A2, we have a decreased attack AoE, and we have a bit of a heal on the champion, damage based on defense, 3-turn cooldown. The A3, ally protection and continuous heal on all allies except this champion on a 3-turn cooldown. That's what makes this champion so freaking amazing. Ally protection is a very powerful buff. Having decreased attack and defense down and continuous heal on the same champion is actually very, very powerful. And the aura is just for force allies, increases the HP by 33%. Not a big fan of the aura personally. The next champion that we have on the list, Cornelia the Creepy. So she is pretty interesting. She is well known for soloing the Bommel as well. On the A1, we have a chance to increase the cooldown of a target skill by 2 turns. This skill right here is actually pretty nice because it has a 100% chance of placing a sleep on all enemies for 1 turn. And whenever an enemy loses a sleep debuff placed by this skill, has a 50% chance of replacing it with fear debuff for 1 turn instead. And this can go all the way down to a 3-turn cooldown. The A3, this is a very unique thing, and this is what makes her so amazing as a champion. Places a sleep debuff on an ally for 1 turn. You heard that right, on an ally. That can be on herself as well, so she's putting herself to sleep. What a silly champion, man. Heals that ally by 50% of their max HP and fills their turn meter by 50 whenever the sleep debuff expires or gets removed. So massive heals, tons of turn meter on a 2-turn cooldown, and heals that ally by 100 and completely fills their turn meter if the sleep debuff is lost due to taking damage from an enemy, which makes it even better. Speed aura for all battles. Cornelia the Creepy, definitely thumbs up from me. Moving over to the next champion, Griseljar. He's a decent champion. I feel like he just doesn't fit in top 40 anymore, so we're not gonna put him in there. Even though he is decent, I feel like he's just not landing in that top. Melga, she's a great reviver for this faction. You know, I feel like out of it, she is not as powerful anymore. So we're gonna stop here with the Dwarf faction, guys, and we're gonna move over to the next one, the Night Revenant faction. Now here we actually have quite a few solid epic champions, non-void epic champions. Let me repeat that just in case. Miscreated Monster was a Halloween champion, like the very first Halloween event that we had in the game. He's so freaking powerful. HP base, magic affinity, very good base stats. He can deal pretty decent damage. And for the spider dungeon, this shield right here is insane, okay? So a massive, massive shield. Great for faction wars to stun the waves. Great for dungeons to stun the waves if you need a bit of an extra carry while you're progressing through the dungeons. Great for Doom Tower because he's a tanky champion. On the A1, he has a chance to stun, and if the enemy already has a stun, he has a chance to land defense down. We have ally protection and continuous heal on the champion. The ally protection goes on all the allies. This passive places a fear debuff on the attacker for 1 turn whenever an ally is attacked while under ally protection buff. And the aura is for arena battles only. Pretty solid champion, man. Definitely, I feel like he didn't lose his touch. I feel like he's still still the GOAT, you know, for all the work that he needs to put in play there. The next champion in here we have is Sinesha. Now, Sinesha, Skullcrown paired together, creme de la creme. But she is very powerful even alone, guys. She brings a lot of healing, a lot of damage. And we have an AoE on the A1, places an extra hit on enemies with less than 50% HP. Great to run this champion on a stun set for faction wars, secret rooms in the Doom Tower. Great to bring her in as a healer, damage dealer, so definitely don't sleep on Sinesha. The A2 attacks one enemy, puts the target skills on cooldown. This is pretty good for Doom Tower as well. The A3 equalizes the HP of all allies. The HP level of all allies will be brought to the level of the highest HP in your team, which is definitely pretty solid. We're getting a bit of an extra heal from there, and this aura is for faction creeps only. Sinesha, very powerful champion, and she is one of the vanilla champions actually. Moving over to the next one, we cannot have a top 40 without Doom Priest. Hell no, because she's just so freaking amazing. And why is Doom Priest well known for? The passive. That's it. That's everything that you need from Doom Priest. Heals all allies by 7.5% of their max HP and removes one random debuff from them at the start of this champion's turn. Great for Doom Tower, great for dungeons, great for clan boss, great as a cleanser everywhere in the game where you need her. Not so powerful for arena if you're going against opponents that land multiple debuffs, but she's so freaking amazing on a relentless set. She can do nasty things in the Doom Tower. For the clan boss, you might want to switch that because it's not going to be that great. Faction Wars, super powerful. Speed Aura for force allies only. Increase attack if you need it on a return cooldown. And the A1 has a random chance to land a increased crit rate on a random ally. Pretty good champion. I really like Doom Priest. Sepulture Sentinel, another awesome champion. Like, this faction has some very solid epics, guys. The A1 has a chance to land decreased attack. She's a defense-based champion, Force Affinity, well known for clan boss, okay? The A2 places increased defense and block debuffs on all allies for 2 turns on a 4-turn cooldown, so you want to make the champion work on a 4-to-3 ratio for clan boss. But what makes her so unique, on top of that, is this passive. On a 1-turn cooldown, has a 50% chance of completely blocking incoming damage when an ally is attacked. This can come in as a massive clutch in clan boss so many freaking times, and not just in clan boss. And we have an increases ally defense in all battles by 25%. Very awesome epic champion. And for the last champion from this faction that I personally think is top 40, Rector Dread. Now, when we are talking about damage dealers, guys, keep in mind there's so many damage dealers in the game at the moment. They're so easily replaceable that only a few damage dealers, they really stand out. So probably, I can already see it. Why you don't have Tylesia in the top 40? Because she is not a top 40 champion. As easy as that. Rector Dread. Massive heals, massive support, Force Affinity. We have revives a single ally with 60% HP and fills their turn meter by 60. And a Perfect Veil buff on them for 3 turns. The A2 heals all allies by 20% of their max HP. And after, we're placing a Perfect Veil if their HP goes to full. If no, we're placing continuous heal if the allies have less than 100% HP. A chance to land decreased attack on the A1. The passive heals them, heals all allies while they are under Veil or Perfect Veil, and increases their resistance while they're under Veil or Perfect Veil buffs by 50. Very nice. We have a resistance aura for Doom Tower. Rector Dread, she can be so freaking annoying even for arena. She's such a massive carry for pretty much everything in the game. Not the best for clan boss though. So, now that we're done with this faction, we can finally move to the Dark Elves faction. Here we have quite a few decent epics too. We're gonna start with no one else but Dark Kael. You can get him from the Doom Tower as a free champion. Magic Affinity, attack based. He is pretty well known for his poison detonation, poisons, decrease attack, and all the crazy stuff that he does. The A3 has a 75% chance, fully booked 100, to place 3 poisons debuffs and a poison sensitivity on the target for 2 turns. Pretty nice for the dragon, pretty nice for the ice golem, pretty nice for a clan boss. The A2 attacks all enemies and has a chance to place decreased attack. Each critical hit also has a 75% chance of increasing the duration of all debuffs on the target by 1 turn. If you give him full crit rate and fully booked, he's gonna do it 100%. And the A1 attacks one enemy 3 times, great for Giant Slayer. Each hit has a 25% chance to instantly activate 2 poison debuffs or 1 poison debuff and an HP burn on the target. That's what makes him so freaking nice. He doesn't have the best base stats in the game, but he's still a very, very solid champion and very unique. The next one again is going to be a Doom Tower champion too, Ryan the Conjurer. We have a revive on the A3, pretty nice, with a 50% turn meter. Immunity on the allies too. This is a Force Affinity champion. Decent base stats, not the best speed in the game, but it's pretty nice. It's very similar with Madame series as an idea. So instead of landing the defense down and attack down, Ryan lands a weaken debuff on all enemies after is removing all the buffs from the targets, which is pretty good. We have an accuracy aura for all battles and a block buffs debuff for 2 turns on an enemy with the A1. Another awesome champion from the Doom Tower. I feel like the epic champions in the Doom Tower, they're better than the legendary ones, guys. Moving over to the next faction. I feel like that's it. Top 40 out of the Dark Elves for epic champions. Non-void. Here we are. Here we are. Moving over to the Undead Hordes. Here again we have quite a few epic champions in here. We're gonna start with Gorgorab. So if you don't have an Arbiter, by the time you're gonna get an Arbiter, you can definitely make a massive use out of Gorgorab. He used to be the GOAT before they introduced Arbiter in the game. Man, he carried me through so much stuff in the game. Speed aura for arena, the A1 has a chance to remove a random buff. Decent base stats, his base speed is not that great though, one thing to keep in mind. Fills the turn meter of all allies by 15 and places an increased attack buff on all allies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown, and revives any dead allies with 25% HP, then heals all allies by 25%. The heal will happen even if there are no dead allies in the team, and this is on a 5-turn cooldown. Definitely very solid even now, because by the time you get your Arbiter, you're gonna be pretty advanced in the game, so you will need to have some sort of strong champions to carry you through the game, you know. It's much easier now with fusions, you know, like when I started playing, we didn't had only a couple of fusions and they were not as common, you know, like we used to have a fusion every like 4 or 5 months or something like that. So yeah, it's a massive difference now. The next champion that we have in here is Seeker, a very unique champion, well known, not for arena, even though he's strong there too, well known for enabling 2-to-1 ratio clan boss teams. Okay, unkillable, non-unkillable. The A1 has a chance to provoke. The A2 is the creme de la creme, fills the turn meter of all allies by 30%, increase attack, and grants an extra turn. That extra turn is what makes it possible, guys, if you're wondering. The passive heals the champion by 20% and places an increased defense buff on all allies for 2 turns when hit with a critical hit. That's what makes him good for arena. Put him in the lead, he's gonna get a crit, and before the other enemies are gonna get hit by their nuker, the increased defense is gonna proc on them and is gonna keep them alive. They're gonna take less damage. Thus, we have an increased ally defense in arena battles by 30. A very nice aura. Pretty good base stats, decent speed, massive turn meter boost. 30% is actually very powerful. The next champion then we have on the list, Husk. Man, I feel like Acrisia, Husk, best enemy max HP for Hydra. Like, he's so freaking powerful for Hydra now, especially with the nerf on the Hydra, where we can actually use Provoke against the Head of Decay. We have Provoke on the A1. We have enemy max HP AoE, a chance to land stun here, which makes him great for faction wars, makes him great for secret rooms in the Doom Tower, great for wave control with a stun. And A3 is something that I never use, okay? I prefer to use the A1 and A2 all the time, but this hits pretty decent on a 3-turn cooldown. Very good base stats, much easier to keep him alive compared to a Royal Guard or something like that. Very solid champion. Then we were talking about damage dealers and all sorts of things like this. Dark Elhain, she is a pretty strong champion, okay? I just want to mention her. I feel like she just might not belong in top 40 best epic champions, just for the simple fact that DPS champions are replaceable, much easier than support champions, champions that buff a lot, champions that carry your team, you know. DPS is more accessible. But she's pretty nice against Stormins, so I just wanted to mention her. She's a free champion, so definitely if you have one, don't get discouraged. She is nice, great for Doom Tower secret rooms, great for faction wars. You can use her if needed, so definitely don't sleep on a Dark Elhain if you need some DPS. The next one that we have on the list here, Massalia Mage. Still after all this time, a very nice champion, very powerful, decent base stats, support champion, Force Affinity. The A1 has a chance to land decreased speed, great for the Iron Twins Fortress. The A2, increased crit rate, increased defense, and immunity on all allies. Very, very nice to run with the Seer combo. Very nice as a support, man. There are a lot of nice buffs in here, you know. The A3, we have a cleanse and heals on all allies. Pretty nice too. And everything gets a bit affected here, but this is on a 4-turn cooldown. Great for a Ice Golem if needed. Great for a Spider if needed, just to cleanse, to have the rest of the buffs. Just a massive progression champion, you know. Definitely a powerhouse for progression. And we have another champion in here. The Undead, again, they have tons of awesome champions. Vogoth, well known for carrying your team. Doom Tower, Arena. What makes him so special? Basically, he's a passive. He's a HP-based champion, Spirit Affinity. Whenever this champion is attacked, heals all allies by 50% of the damage received. Only heals this champion by 25% of the damage received on attacks from bosses. So this allows you to keep your team alive for a long, long time. We have a Leech on the A2, on the second passive, my bad. On the A2 we have Provoke and decrease attack against targets that get provoked. And the A1 is a Giant Slayer, with a chance to increase the duration of a random debuff on the target by 1 turn. Such a strong champion, even for endgame, mid-game, ever. Great for the Bommel, how I mentioned, great for Arena, great for faction wars if needed, great for secret rooms. He's not as great for stage 21 of faction wars, but all around, he can be an amazing, amazing champion. And I wanna mention one more bad boy in here. I just can't do this faction without Anax. He is the best DPS in the entire game for clan boss as an epic champion. Okay, so let me just rectify. The best epic DPS in the entire game. The A1 has a defense down. The A2, we have a decreased accuracy and 2 poisons. Attacks one enemy 2 times. Pretty good damage too on a 3-turn cooldown. The A3 has a weaken. And the passive, pretty interesting. Most of the times you're not really gonna make a massive use out of it. Great for unkillable teams. So Anax, I feel like he deserves to be in top 40 just because he brings so much damage, guys. Like, his damage is actually bonkers. Moving over to the next faction, Demonspawn. I feel like we're getting there, guys. We're getting there. So right here, we do have a couple of epic champions that stand out. Allure. She is amazing in endgame. Amazing for progression too because of the A1. No other champion in the game has this skill. Mainly for the Fire Knight, the Dark Fane, the Doom Tower, Faction Wars, attacks 3 times at random, decreases the target's turn meter by 25 on each critical hit. That's what makes Allure, okay? The A2 is pretty good, can come in handy, attacks all enemies 2 times, and has a chance to land decreased defense, the small version, and a sleep debuff on targets under defense down. The A3, I never use it. Even though can smack pretty decent, I don't use it because I want to prioritize the A1 over the rest. But we ignore some defense in here. She doesn't have the best base stats in the game, but still good enough to do the job. And we have a accuracy aura for faction crypts. The next champion that we have in here, guys, Akak the Vandaran. Great for the Spider Dungeon, great to offer you support if needed. So the A1 is not that game-changing or anything like that. What makes this champion so nice is, one, having the A3, a chance to land either a freeze debuff on enemies whose attack is higher than their defense, either land the HP burn instead. So this is great for the Spider. We're gonna freeze the Spiderlings. with the HP burn is actually gonna enable a nice strategy. The A2 on a 4-turn cooldown, we have block debuffs and strengthen on all allies. Pretty nice. The passive heals all allies by 5% of their max HP every time an enemy under HP burn debuff gets a turn. Fills the turn meter of all allies every time an enemy under freeze debuff gets a turn when that expires. So that's an amazing combo for the Spider Dungeon with HP burn and the freeze. Increases ally defense in all battles by 25%. Definitely very solid. So you can use this champion as a progression powerhouse or in the very end game. And from here, how I mentioned DPS, Magnar. I feel like Magnar deserves it because he is so freaking unique and he competes with a lot of legendary champions, man. The main thing with Magnar is he has very good base stats. Defense down, attack down don't really affect him. He is Spirit Affinity, very tanky, and attacks all enemies, places an extra hit on enemies without HP burn debuffs. Double hit in arena, and he hits so freaking hard. 3-turn cooldown. Definitely throw a savage set on this boy. Prioritize HP, crit damage, crit rate. Get mainly damage out of him and he's gonna wreck. The A1, it's pretty nice. Has a chance to land defense down if the target has HP burn. And the A3, again, decent damage and applies a debuff spread if the target is under HP burn. That's pretty much everything for this faction as well in terms of non-void legendary champions. Moving over to the Orc faction. Here we have a couple as well that are pretty solid. And we have no one else but Duck the Pierced. So on the A1 we have decreased accuracy. The A2 we have attacks all enemies, decrease attack and defense down if the attack is critical. On a 3-turn cooldown, very nice. The A3 we have a provoke and then another provoke at random, plus a reflect damage and an unkillable buff on this champion. And we have a defense aura for faction crypts. Great for the as a defense down and decrease attack in dungeons. Doom Tower if you need him in secret rooms, if you need him in faction wars. Duck the Pierced, definitely top-notch champion. I really like this bad boy. Love the design on him with the shield. Moving over to the next champion in this faction, guys. No one else but Jorg. I do think that old Hermit Jorg is a top 40 champion because he is a pretty nice carry. The A1, HP burn. The A2, increase attack and 20% turn meter on all allies on a 3-turn cooldown. He's more than just a faction war reviver, guys. Great for arena if you have a different champion for a speed lead. You have High Katoon early on. Definitely a great combination. Great for faction wars. Great to carry you even in dungeons early on. Good progression champion, you know. Then revives 2 random allies with 60% HP and fills their turn meter by 40 and places a perfect veil buff on them for 2 turns. Pretty good base stats and base speed as well. The next champion that we have here on the list, Zargala. Not you. I know you're pretty nice, but we're not gonna cover you in today's video. Rask. He is such a solid champion. He doesn't need books. Build him on either a Relentless, either Retaliation set, full crit rate, as much HP as possible, and he's gonna keep your team alive. Basically, all that matters on him is the passive, the A1. Stop the A2, don't even use them. Heals the allies by 10% of this champion's max HP on each critical hit. The more turns he gets, the more hits he does. Critical hits, the more heal we're gonna get on the team. Very nice champion. I feel like he's definitely underestimated. 23,000 base HP, so if you build this champion nice, he can give you massive heals. Sandlash Survivor. I feel like she deserves her spot in here. The A1 has a chance to provoke. The A2 attacks all enemies and decreases the duration of all enemy buffs and increases the duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn on a 3-turn cooldown. And what makes her so unique now, because we have quite a few champions that do this skill, increase the duration, decrease the duration, is the passive as well, guys, and the aura. So this is a very unique passive. Places ally protection buff on all allies for 2 turns when an ally's HP drops below 50, and then places a block damage on herself. Great for arena to stall enemies, to help your teammates to stay alive, put her in the last slot. Great for clan boss. And we have a ally defense in all battles by 25%. Good for faction wars. Good as a support champion. I really like Sandlash Survivor even after all this time. That was all for this faction, guys. Moving over to the next one. We have the Skinwalkers factions. Now, right here, we do have one champion that stands out. And I'm kind of like debating if, yeah, this is definitely a top 40 champion or not. The reason for it is only good for clan boss. Like, you could use her somewhere else, Fane. Yeah, so I'm debating. I might need your help, guys, on here. You think Fane is a top 40 epic champion just because she is so niche and, let's just say, unique-ish for clan boss because of defense down and weaken and some poisons? Or you think just that doesn't really put her in a top 40? I'm curious to know your thoughts. I personally find it hard to justify and place her in top 30 over other champions that do so many other things in the entire game. Like, don't get me wrong, she can be used in different places in the game too, but it's more niche. She doesn't have very good base stats, hard to keep alive, longer cooldown on the defense down and weaken. So I could use her maybe on the dragon, I could use her for defense down and weaken on the spider dungeon on stage 20 and places like this, but I still find it hard to justify it. So please let me know in the comments down below. Next faction, we have the Lizardmen. So here, Venomage, such a massive powerhouse. On the A1, attacks one enemy 2 times, and we have a chance to activate up to 2 poison debuffs. Pretty nice, especially with the Viziering clan boss. She can solo a lot of content, guys. Solo the Lizardman secret room, solo Dragon 20. She's just awesome as a champion. The A2 attacks one enemy and has 100% chance fully booked to land defense down and attack down if the target has poison debuffs. The A3 attacks all enemies and we place heal reduction for 3 turns and 2 5% poison debuffs for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. The passive brings in a bit of damage reduction against enemies that have heal reduction. And we have an accuracy aura for all battles. Man, Venomage is such an awesome champion, actually. Such a great addition to the game. Jarek, another awesome champion. He is a bit power creep compared to other epic champions, but he's still very unique, still very powerful for Doom Tower, very powerful for faction wars if needed, still good for clan boss if you don't have other champions, great as a progression for dungeons, attack down on the A1, we have ally protection and increased defense on a 4-turn cooldown on all allies. In clan boss, you gotta make him run on a 4-to-3 ratio. His passive places a continuous heal buff on all allies for 1 turn whenever an ally loses 20% of their max HP in 1 hit. Great on the Griffin in the Doom Tower, great against the Eternal Dragon. You have quite a few places where you can use him. Secret rooms, Jarek, spot on, even after all this time. The next champion that we have in here, Eox. Now, probably you guys are asking, Skratch, why didn't you put Steel Skull in top 40? Well, he definitely got power creeped a lot, and if you would make me choose in between Eox and Steel Skull, I would go for Eox. A1 attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 10% chance to land poisons, a pretty low chance, but fully booked gets higher. The A3 attacks one enemy, heals all allies by 10% of their max HP, and heals them extra for each debuff on the target. The A3 places attack down. We have a chance to decrease each enemy's turn meter by 20 and places decreased crit rate debuff on the target for 2 turns if they have 50% or more turn meter after the turn meter decrease. And the passive increases the duration of 2 random debuffs on the attacker by 1 turn when attacked, occurs once per hit. This is again a very interesting passive. It became pretty good for the Iron Twins Fortress together with Geomancer, and we have an accuracy aura for Doom Tower battles. Moving over to the next champion, guys, and that is not from this faction anymore. We're gonna move over all the way to the Ogryn Tribes. Of course, we're gonna start with no one else but Ugo. Such a huge carry for Hydra, such a huge carry for faction wars, secret rooms. I feel like she's definitely a very, very amazing champion. The A1 attacks one enemy, has a 35% chance of placing a leech debuff. The A2, we have defense down and block buffs too. Very, very nice for Hydra. I have her built on a Relentless, if any of you guys are curious. The A3 removes all heal reduction debuffs from all allies and removes another random debuff and heals the allies. If all the allies are dead, revives them with 50% HP, then fills their turn meter by 50 instead. pretty nice on a 4-turn cooldown. And the passive places an increased speed and block damage on this champion for 1 turn whenever this champion is the last living ally. So pretty good base stats on the champion too. Moving over to the next one right here, guys, we have no one else but Skull Crusher. So the A1 heal reduction, not that great. What makes him so amazing is the A2, ally protection, counter attack, and an unkillable buff on this champion. He can help you to progress a bit in the game, in the Fire Knight, just to give you a bit of survivability, but where he really shines out is in the clan boss. And nowadays, you can actually use him as the stun target because of the unkillable, and his passive will remove the stun from the champion. So if you make him on a 4-to-3 ratio, you don't need any cleanser, and you're constantly gonna have the counter attack and the thing for the stun. Of course, you're gonna lose a bit with the counter attack because it's only gonna be in for the very first AoE, but he's gonna help you with the stun target. Very nice epic champion, very unique. There are only 3 counter attack champions in the entire game. Here I do want to give a shout out to Claude. He's pretty nice, but again, he does bring increased accuracy, increased speed on a 3-turn cooldown, which is, you could justify it. Yeah, this is a great progression champion, but I feel like just because of this and the shield that he gives, I feel like he's just not the GOAT to be in top 40. He is more niche, so this is a champion that he can be amazing on some accounts if you're lacking decent gear with speed and accuracy, or you're lacking a second champion to give you increased speed for arena. But I feel like he's definitely a top 50 epic champion, just not a top 40 in my opinion. So I just wanted to mention him. Shatterbones is actually pretty nice from this faction. Occult Brawler, good poisoner. Grush, decent champion too, and he's for free. Moving over to the next faction, the Barbarians. Here we have the 2 sisters, which are great damage dealers. But how I mentioned, damage is a bit different, right? So we're gonna talk about one of my most favorite epic champions, Shadowkin the Fat, guys. We have defense down on the A1, great for clan boss, great for Fire Knight, great for a lot of other places where you need a bit of extra damage and debuffs and buffs. You know, you can run him with Seer if you want, just as an extra buffer. So defense down on the A1, decent base stats, Spirit Affinity. We have HP burn poisons on a 3-turn cooldown on the A2. Increased crit rate, increased crit damage on all allies for 3 turns. Then all allies will attack a target on a 4-turn cooldown. Very nice. And the passive deflects 20% of all incoming damage this champion receives onto all allies. So that helps to keep this champion alive for a little longer. He's a freaking beast, this champion. Definitely very nice. The next champion in here that I definitely think that it belongs in top 40 is Jamarsa. So this is a newish addition to the game. The A1 has a chance to land a sleep. The A2 heals the target ally by 30% of the HP and fills the thermometer by 30. That goes on a 3-turn cooldown. The A3 on a 5-turn cooldown revives all dead allies with 30% HP and 30% thermometer. Then the passive, whenever an ally uses an active skill, has a 20% chance of decreasing the cooldown of that skill by 1 turn. That is on a 1-turn cooldown. Actually, it's gonna decrease the cooldown completely fully booked if I'm not mistaken, right? And then we have an increases ally defense in all battles. When I'm making a top, guys, I'm kind of bringing utility all around. Where could I use this champion? Can this champion be game-changing for my account? Can it actually carry my team? Can it actually do this for a lot of different parts in the game? And that's why I'm making the top. That's why you see so many of these champions in the top. Instead of, let's just, Alika, she's such an amazing damage dealer, but can she do anything else? That's why she's not in my top, just as an idea. Wood Painted gives massive heals, but again, I still don't think she deserves top 40. She's definitely in top 50. Same with Alika, probably. Moving over to the next faction, we have the Sacred Order. And I feel like I already busted my top 40. So I think it's gonna be more of a top 50. I feel like it. I feel like we're just there. Deacon Armstrong. Such a beast of a champion. Very unique together with Seeker. he gets an extra turn too, so fills the thermometer of all allies by 15 and decreases the thermometer of all enemies by 15, grants an extra turn on a 3-turn cooldown. So he's not as powerful as Seeker because we're not getting increased attack, and he only gives us half of the thermometer that Seeker does. But instead of it, he gives us a speed aura for all battles, he gives us an AoE defense down, and he gives us a leech on the A1. Such an amazing champion. Great for progression, great for a lot of content in the game, guys, including for Arena, Clan Boss. There are quite a few teams for Clan Boss with him. Definitely don't sleep on Deacon. I remember I got him on my free-to-play, and he was such a game changer for me because I managed to do a much better Arena team, a much better Clan Boss team with him, just because he's bringing a lot of things. Mordecai is a nice champion because we're getting HP burn AoE, thermometer manipulation. But again, that just doesn't justify a top 40. Top 50, he can definitely be in there. Fennex, an awesome damage dealer with the A1. Moving over to the next faction, High Elves. Royal Guard, awesome champion. Defense down on the A1. We have enemy max HP, takedown. We all know how popular that is. Great for dungeons, great for Hydra. The A3, we have 4 times at random. Great for the Fire Knight. We have decreased thermometer, decreased speed. Great for the Dark Fae in the Doom Tower. Great for the Magma Dragon. With his kit all around, not just the last skill. The takedown is a nice champion. Attack aura for all dungeons by 35%. Pretty nice. And we have another champion. Tyrell is pretty decent too, but he got power cracked by Duck the Pierced and Stag Knight. Fergus. Such a massive powerhouse, guys. He was so bad before the buff, which happened ages ago, by the way. He can solo the Scarab King. And on the A1, he has a chance to land a reflect damage buff on a random ally. Look at all these buffs. Continuous healing, increased speed, reflect damage on a target ally for 3 turns on a 3-turn cooldown, ally protection on all allies, and increased defense on himself. Oh my god, he does so much. Great for the Iron Twins Fortress as well because of all these buffs. He actually helped the team that I've done, kind of like epic-ish team, a more budget-ish one for stage 14, 15, and he was great there as well to help with the team. The passive places a shield buff on the champion equal to 10% of their max HP whenever he loses 10% or more of their max HP from a single hit, and continuous heal buffs on this champion for 2 turns every time his HP drops below 50 on a 1-turn cooldown. We have a defense aura for all dungeons, 33%, very nice base stats. Vergis is such an amazing champion, guys. Moving over to the next, and of course, Jingle Hunter. I'm just messing with you. Jingle Hunter is far off from top 70, 80. I feel like Jingle Hunter is top 2000. Yeah, definitely. Jingle Hunter top 2000. We have the last faction, guys. The Bannerlords. Now, we do have a massive quantity of epic champions in here. And Stag Knight, amazing champion, decreased speed. And we have decreased attack and defense down on a 3-turn cooldown. We have an increased accuracy buff on all allies for 1 turn whenever they get resisted. And this was the very first increased accuracy buff in the entire game. Very good base stats on a Stag Knight. Great champion all around, man. If you need him for Spider, for Fire Knight, for the Dragon, for the freaking Ice Golem, whenever you need him, you can definitely use him. Awesome champion. Archmage Helmet, coming in from the Doom Tower as well. So on the A1, attacks 1 enemy, fills the champion's thermometer. The A2 attacks 1 enemy, can actually deal solid damage with this skill. Also attacks all other enemies if the first attack is critical. The second hit has a 75% chance to land a stun debuff, and decreases the thermometer of enemies without the stun by 20 on a 3-turn cooldown. The A3, increased speed, increased crit rate, increased crit damage on all allies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. He's immune to thermometer manipulation effects and a speed aura for arena battles. Very nice epic champion. Amazing with Seer, especially for Fire Knight stage 25 because of all the buffs and everything else that he does. I cannot recommend this champion enough, honestly. Very nice champion. I really like this bad boy. And another mention in here, guys, Giscard the Sigilled. We have a decreased attack, provoke on a 3-turn cooldown fully booked, increase defense and increase attack, and we have a bit of a thermometer increase from the passive, defense aura for faction crypts. I do apologize because I just can't help it. Seems like this is my problem. I discover my problem, my issue. I'm saying top 40 and I end up with a top 50 or something like that, so apologies for that. How I mentioned, everything is gonna be nice timestamped based by factions, guys. Let me know your thoughts on these champions. Maybe some of us will have slightly different opinions. This was a non-void epic champions video, guys. How I mentioned, let me know if you guys think that I missed anyone that is very, very powerful, that can be justified to be placed in like a top 50 champions, right? Top 50 non-void epic champions. But that was all for this video. Much love. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. I'll catch you all soon in the next one. Till then, peace.